Mitchell, I interviewed on the field. I think it was early in the season.
We remember.
About 8 weeks ago.
When the language started.
Yep.
And he then went to ground. The club blamed myself. The club blamed Triple M. We got taken off that. This is a professional, 2-time premiership player who's a fantastic role model for his Indigenous community and for the game of rugby league, and he never took ownership. He then has made some poor decisions on the field. He was suspended, never took ownership. Everybody else, the crowd boos him. It's everybody else. And then he challenges Braith Anasta, who's done everything in the game, who is fair. Yep, he might manage Lachlan Ilias, but he's a broadcaster as well, and he's entitled to his opinion. He gives credit where it's due. When there's criticism due, he calls it what it is. He doesn't muck around. He can take criticism himself, and he's as fair as any bloke in this game. For Braith to have to be subjected to that, and Latrell, I'm just sticking up for my teammates.
Well, don't worry, Braith didn't back down.
Yeah, but I don't expect him to. But I cannot get over this. At what point does Latrell, who I respect deeply, own his behaviour?
Firstly, I like it, right? If you're hurt by what people are saying, he didn't start bitching. He went up in front of him, and Braith will stand his ground.
There's a time and place.
It probably shouldn't have gotten the papers, right? And the truth of what happened, only those two know.
Yep.
And it should have stayed between 1 and 2.
Yep.
But Latrell at the moment, there's something not quite right. I think he's gone from probably the most exciting talent and a Greg Inglis-like career we were thinking, where I say now, and I'll say until someone comes along, 13 Greg Inglis's would beat 13 any other players that I've watched run on the footy field. So that's, and I think Latrell was probably going to, like, he had a chance to get to that. Mate. Right? So, and then...
Are you saying he's lost his way at the moment, Gordy?
Well, I think he has. I think with South, I think with how big he is, right? Like, I've watched players pick up sides and they carry them on their back, like, and they do it, and they're the people that we love. And I've watched Darren Lockie do it. I watched Thurston do it at the Cowboys. I watched that. They don't have to be the best player every week. But when you are the brand and when you are as big as Latrell...
We've watched him do it, Gorden. That's why.
Yeah,
We've watched him do that.
We're only judging him on his ability. Yeah. We're not saying something that he's not capable of doing. I'm not asking Latrell Mitchell to do something that he's not capable of doing. And I just think there's something wrong. So for him to go do that, you know, there's something deeper.
Latrell's out of order, and somebody at South Sydney needs to pull his coat.
Well, they're not going to.
I think, no, you're right. No, because nobody has, and that's how we've got to this situation. I think the only bloke who can probably get Latrell back to his best is Wayne. Yep. So that's why Souths have pursued Wayne as hard as they have, and obviously that deal is now done. But Latrell, I don't have an issue whatsoever, Gordy, with a player wanting to go up to a member of the media, an ex-player who's now a commentator.
But there's better ways of doing it.
And have a conversation. No problem whatsoever. Do it every day of the week. But my understanding of this situation is when Latrell was asked, well, okay, let's unpack it. Let's go through, where is your beef? Like, what are you angry about? Why do you think I've got an agenda against you? There was nothing. He couldn't pull anything out except for, you know, like insults. So that's not the right way to handle things. I've seen you have words with journos over the years. I don't have a problem with it because you handled it like a man and they handled it okay and everybody moved on. I've had words with players at times, right? And it stayed between us, right?
Yes.
And you just take it and you know what? You actually, often you find out of that, you end up being on better terms with the person
you
anyway.
Respect them a little bit
That's
better.
right.
I rang a few journalists and I said, hey, listen, the article that you wrote and you're writing about me, I said, the first one I took, the second one I didn't like, the third one, hey, mate, we need to go. I'll buy you a steak. You got to know me. You got to get to know me because what you're writing, I'm not that person, right? And then if they kept on writing, I said, don't do it again, sort of thing. It was no, but no, mate.
Then the threats come.
but like I get where Latrell's coming from, but I don't understand. No.
I'll tell you why.
But that's what I'm saying. It's bigger than Braith because Braith doesn't say anything.
Mate, South Sydney throws smother every time Latrell makes a mistake. Like yesterday,
it's a big brand.
yesterday, Blake Solly getting stuck into buzz over an article that he wrote in the paper. You know, Blake Solly, when the swearing went on, and I spoke to Blake Solly, mate, it was everybody else's fault except Latrell's. It was Triple M's media guys. It was all the, you know.
Mate, we're part of it. No one's been under the pump more than the West Tigers. in my opinion, since I've been covering the game in the last couple of years, they've been under the pump everywhere.
Absolutely.
Right? They are the side, and then those individuals should be the ones that should be upset. Not someone that can go out there. And then these are guys that are running that don't get to
But
go
how
out
does
there
this
and
get to the
change
media?
world.
How does this get?
Well, a couple of things, Dobber. Like, really, this shouldn't be in the sports section. This should be in the gossip. I don't understand how this has become an issue. Incidences like this would happen a couple of times a year, I would say,
More.
that don't necessarily make the press, but obviously because it's Latrell and Braith and Anasta, it has. Look, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to criticism.
Yep.
On a personal level, I've only ever had it publicly with Fitzsimons. It was nothing to do with my football. He attacked my character. I obviously disagree with him on so many levels. It's not even funny, but I'm not going to go into that. I think, if you look at this situation at the moment with Latrell, what's the way out? What's the way to shut the critics up?
Football.
There is the solution, and I think if that becomes his focus, he can do it. If he gets distracted by what other people are saying about him, and I respect Braith. I don't from memory. I can't recall anything in particular he said that isn't factual when it comes to South Sydney and their level of performance this year.
I said on the show with him last year, like when we were getting in his house, and we were talking about it. And this is because it's a big brand, and we expected more. They were on top of the table after round 12 or 13 or something like that. And we expected those guys. We went to Newcastle and we called it, and I'm like, where is like Latrell? And that's when Carlin Ponga's going on a run, and we were so excited as rugby league fans. It was like it was sold out. It was packed. That's what we talk about. So I'm going there as a fan to watch the game, to call it, and then I got to say what I see. And if I don't, I'm not true to myself. And if those words hurt you, I'm sorry, but I'm paid to give my opinion. You mightn't agree with it, but that's my opinion. And criticism is not racism. Criticism is criticism, and it's criticising the colour of the jersey you wear and the team you're playing and what we expect from you. And then every time I judge a player, I actually judge them on their effort. I don't judge it on their ability, because that comes from their mum and dad, right? And it's not fair sometimes when you play against a Gregor, but how hard they try, what they do, how much they want it, the passion. That's why we follow State of Origin. That's why we love play. That's why Jonathan Thurston and like Alan Langer, probably two of the most popular players, Terry Lamb, they turned up for every single play. Max Plath has turned into my favourite player because he goes where he shouldn't.
A guy like Jonathan Thurston epitomises it. So, top-end player, high-paid player, high profile. Every time, no matter the outcome of the game, win, lose or draw, he looked like a champion. He looked like one because he tried, and that's what you come to expect,
with or without the ball.
Yeah, and like I say, for the off-field issue of criticism for Latrell Mitchell, you can think it's justified, unjustified. We should go harder. We should tone it down a little bit. Fundamentally, he can quieten everybody down by playing better, and that's what he needs to do. The solution is there.
The problem is,
but it's got to come from him, and he needs to drive it. It's on him.
Gemma, there's a bigger issue, because last night I was fascinated when South Sydney played the Cowboys. The first carry. Now, if it was a Brisbane crowd, all Brisbane, you go, oh, okay, well, Queenslanders hate New South Wales, and there's always been that with Latrell. But this was the most neutral crowd.
It is a neutral crowd.
At Magic Round.
There's probably
and
more.
52,000 people booed Latrell as soon as he had the carry.
It wasn't 52,000.
Well, sorry. Well, mate, that's semantics.
Not everybody.
Well, I'm sorry. You were calling up in there. It was a huge boo. And I can tell you, we were all in the powers box when that was going on. And like I'm saying, so he's not endearing himself when this is one of the best players in the game. And I've never seen it like that. I've never seen a player so maligned against every other club other than South Sydney.
Well, he wasn't getting booed when he was at the Roosters, and he was winning premierships with the Roosters playing in the centres.
Yep.
And Wally Lewis has been booed. There's been, I've seen Gorden booed in New South Wales.
Yeah, sure.
Paul Gallen used to get booed whenever he'd come up here after he calls Queensland.
But this is a neutral crowd.
To get called a banker.
Yeah, Benny Eli, that's right. So that's part of the fabric of the game at times is fans will decide that they like certain players, and for whatever reason,
Well, why do they not
like
like Latrell? What is it? Because all this is starting to add up, and there's no accountability. No one in rugby league, we forgive everybody, mate. Everybody gets another chance. We know that, but there's
I think
no
people
accountability.
think that he gets special treatment.
So
at
do
South
I.
Sydney.
So
I
do
think
I.
people think that he's
Yeah,
he
protected.
gets looked after.
Yeah, and that's the reason. If we really want to unpack it, and if you got to the bottom of why Sam Burgess isn't there, because he was one of those players that Sam Burgess felt was getting special treatment, and it wasn't a collective as a team. And so
And it looks like Sam's right.
it definitely looks like Sam's right because the coach isn't there anymore.
And then Dimitrio's lost his
He's
job.
lost his job, and
They've
now they're
won
having
one
to bring,
game all season.
and they've won one game all season, and they're favourites to win the spoon. So there's got to be something going wrong there.
If I was talking to Latrell, go spend some time with Anthony Mundine.
Yep.
There's never been a more polarising person. He's one of my great mates, right? And what Anthony went through and what he goes through, but I'll tell you something about Anthony. He's one of the hardest trainers I've ever played with. He's one of the fittest guys I've ever been on a footy field. He went from a really tough sport to go boxing. I think he's had it all. And I think if I'm Latrell, I would go spend some time with Anthony and get him to get me fit and get me hard and get me to want to be the guy that I can be, because we all know that Latrell, it's all inside there, but for some reason it's not coming out at the moment. And footy's a lifestyle for him. It's not a priority.
That's a great point, Gordon, in reference to Chock. I think that would do Latrell the world.
Or someone.
of
You know what I
good.
mean? Like,
No, I think Chock's perfect because he understands. He's been on the roller coaster.
Absolutely,
He's lived it. He can speak from personal experience. Those two had a blue not that long ago. Now they've since patched it up, which is great. But the other thing that worries me about this whole narrative and this particular story is just the way that it was immediately leaked out into
Straight
the
away.
media. Clearly, it's agenda driven. Clearly, people are deliberately looking to try and spin it a certain way. And I think that I actually feel a bit for Latrell that he's caught up in the middle of all of
Well,
that.
it came through the Fairfax network. It came through Danny Wilder. Danny Wilder wrote this story. So somebody's text that, and it's more a
I'm
whack
pretty
at
sure
News
Braith
Limited.
wouldn't have wrote.
Well, definitely
rang him.
didn't. Braith definitely didn't. And
No, Braith copped the spray in the
Yeah,
paper
Braith
away
did.
from him.
yeah, either way,
But why would he cop a spray for?
Because he didn't return his calls or something.
something. Yeah. Anyway, we're not getting into that. We're not. Yeah. Look, what I will say is, I'm sure tomorrow it's going to be unpacked on NRL 360, and I'm looking forward to it. David Fifita is remaining a Gold Coast Titan. This time last week, Gordy, we were all a little concerned because the Roosters had looked like that they'd signed. The beauty of the NRL now is there is a cooling off period, and we were all in shock. I'll say that, in shock that David, not backflip, but decided that he wanted to remain a Titan. I will say that the Roosters claiming that they were the ones who pulled the offer is not factually correct. It was David that contacted the Roosters and said that he was having...
Hang on, I'll stop you there. He didn't contact
Well,
them.
his management, his management. And then, obviously, Steve Mitchell came out and he remains a Titan for the next 2 years. Gordon, I'm going to come to you.
It's
obviously-
great news. It's great news. Like I was talking yesterday at a function, and Newcastle, how important Kalen Ponga is to Newcastle. What would it mean if he was in a Roosters jersey or something like that? It is so important for the small clubs to get the big names. Look at the Dogs now on what they're building in, having someone like Viliami, Kikau and Burton in their team. I think it's a real win for the competition and the salary cap. Like, I really do. And I'm at the Titans, and and if Dave left,
What
would they
happened?
have moved on?
What
I don't know.
happened?
I think Dave, right? I think Dave maybe got buyer's remorse. You get there and you get something, and he probably just thought to myself or to himself, I actually really like it here. I'm
that's
actually
a
on a good wicket. I actually think we're going somewhere. And why? Like, you're not that upset. He's one of the most popular blokes there. He's playing State of Origin. He'll play for his country there. Like, what more can he achieve in the game except buy? And then I think if he goes to the Roosters and he wins a comp, right? Let's just say that he did. It wouldn't be his comp. If he wins at the Titans, it's his and Tino's. Like, you just know that when You know, when Brisbane won the competition, it was Elfs. You know, what I mean, like it was Elf and Kevy. You know, what I mean, like when Raiders, it was Ricky and you know, what I mean, so like there's certain players that when they go, and if the Titans win the competition, it's because of Dave and Tino and AJ Brimson and you know, like the guys that have been there and played a lot of footy together.
Do you think the fact that he was booed by his own fans in the game when they beat the Cowboys, would that have had any
I think so.
influence on his decision?
I just think everything. I just think everything. Like I don't know. When Dave signed the last time, I did, you know, get in contact with him and we were talking, and
Yep.
you know, and I wasn't part of the decision, but I was part of chatting to him in the process. But this time, I think he did it all himself. So, I think it's a great lesson to all the players, right? You are your own manager, right?
Well, he's not.
Right, mate. No.
If
He got sold around and he didn't like it.
Hang on. He had an offer on the table, and he had a clause in there from Justin Holbrook that till round 10
I
he
get
could
it.
go looking. If he was 100% legitimate from the start, and I understand why did he hang the bait to Penrith,
seemed-
and why did he hang the bait to the Roosters? Why didn't
Did
you
he
say?
do it or his management?
Well, he was a part of it. He's
How
managing.
is he a part of it? That's
No,
what I'm
he
saying,
was-
Dobbo.
he
The
was a
players
part
don't
of it,
normally.
mate.
He allowed him to do it.
He allowed
Robbie.
him to
He
do it.
The
Well,
allowed
players
him to do
don't.
it.
The players aren't across everything. That's
You don't
my
think-
point.
Well, you,
No,
hang
but
on,
he
players
flew
aren't
down.
across
yeah, but hang on.
everything.
He flew down. He met with
get
the
it,
Roosters.
but
He met with Penrith.
say go to Roosters and
separately.
Penrith?
He met with the Roosters, right? He flew down. Nobody knew, right? About 2 weeks ago, he flew down and met with Trent Robinson. Then all of a sudden, Penrith come in late as well. And so he flies down to Sydney on the Sunday and meets with Ivan Cleary. Now, throughout the whole process, he was telling both clubs that in all likelihood he was going to leave the Gold Coast. And he basically, look, both clubs thought they were in the box seat. The Roosters thought they had him, and Penrith conversely also thought that they were a good chance as well. I don't have an issue. I think it's a win for the little guy that he stayed at the Gold Coast Titans. I'm happy about that. But the way that he's handled it is poor. You can't treat people the way that, like he's talking Greek on the phone with Uncle Nick, Politis, and telling him that he's a rooster.
And did Uncle Nick say "Thasi Derro" backwards? That means I'll smack
My
you,
Greek's
Dobbo.
not
It does seem strange
Unfortunately,
because
Just so-
look, David was ultimately had a big decision to make, and you take into consideration the impact of that decision before you actually make it. So you know, okay, if I'm here on the Gold Coast, moving to Sydney, what that means for my family, what that means for my friends, what that means to my everyday life. Excuse me. I've had that when I left England.
Yeah.
Like, I know what it's like to go, I think I'm going to go to Australia. Okay, I'm going to go. And I've considered what the impact of that decision is. So for David to sign with the Sydney Roosters, move to Sydney, and then 3 days later, you know, Gordy, you mentioned buyer's remorse. I could understand had David have got to the Roosters in next year, gone, maybe this isn't for me. I want to go back because life is better on the Gold Coast. Fair enough. But I think somebody or a number of people have had some conversations with him and managed to turn this around for him. They've turned his head back to the Gold Coast. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in those conversations, but I think that's what it's come down to.
Tino's had some input. There's absolutely, because, I mean, Tino put a social media post up saying, you know, like something along the lines of, you know, that we'd all stuck together and, you know, his words, his honour. And so Tino has been influential
Well,
in
there you
this.
go.
Well, is it right? Did those two have a little set too over the course of the
In the
summer?
off season, yeah, they did. So, you know, there was a little bit of heat on the training paddock and they got into it.
Oh, that happens all the
Yeah,
time.
no, but
Yeah, I know.
there was a little bit more to it than that. But either way,
Really?
I think Tino.
What do you mean more to it?
I'm not going into it, but there was more to it. Now, the fact is that Tino made a commitment for 10 years. He's put his flag in the sand and said, that's it, I'm not leaving the Titans.
And I think right now, if Dave and Tino comes back and Mo Thudawaker and AJ Brimson and Campbell and Verrills and the guys that we have, I think there's a real footy team there. You know, and of course
No
you've got to
question.
get, and I'm sure, you know, everybody's chasing a 6 and 7. Everybody is. Everybody in the world is chasing one. And hopefully there's a young kid coming up soon and he's in our system and he comes up and, you know, we can get really competitive.
How do we get to the point that this doesn't happen? Because I agree, I'm so happy for the Titans. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Jemmy, your wife, who's on the board, the Frizzells, the Kellys, really happy. They get Fifita, he's there. But I'm with Hoops that it's a dreadful look, and the soap opera that went around it was completely avoidable if he'd just been straight up from the very beginning. And I don't understand. I understand everybody's got it there. But the damage it did, like that relationship with the Roosters now with
Too
David.
bad. Get over it.
No, Gordon.
Get over it.
No, Gordon, in
Okay,
business,
right,
you've got to be
'cause it's
honourable.
Nick, so you got to stick up for him.
No, I'm
so
not
you didn't
sticking up
stick
for Nick.
Mate,
I'm
so you didn't
sticking
stick up for the Titans when
Yes, we did.
when Daly Cherry Evans did the Nadia Combination and started back flipping.
Mate, I
It
think
goes to
Daly
every
Cherry
club.
Evans.
Listen,
I think Daly Cherry Evans got his.
It happens at every club, right? Don't go poor Roosters. They go there and then.
No, it's not poor Roosters,
not poor
Gordy,
Roosters.
Gordy. I'm not saying poor
People
Roosters.
are allowed to do it.
My point is, I think it sets a bad precedent, right? When you conduct
Everybody does
yourself,
it.
when you do, no, they don't.
Seriously?
This bloke's the
How
first
many-
bloke who's backflipped since
How
DCE.
many managers sit there and shop them around to every club?
That's different
Yes.
to committing and
Yeah,
then
but
going,
to commit,
no,
to
I'm
ring
not.
up people and say,
The Cheese
I'm coming
did it.
to your
The Cheese
club.
told the Dolphins he was going. Cheese told about 6 clubs, and he goes to the Roosters. Do you feel sorry for them now?
He didn't
Give me a
sign. The
break.
Cheese didn't sign, right?
It
Fifita
happens
has rung him up
everywhere.
and
It
told
happens
him
everywhere.
he's coming.
Yeah.
I just don't like that precedent in terms of the message that it's teaching people. I think it's a bad way of
I
conducting
know, but it's
yourself
been
in
happening in
life.
our game now for 20 years.
So how do you fix it?
Hey?
How do you fix it?
Well, you take the cooling off
do you
period
know?
out once
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
announce
well,
it.
once it's
They don't-
announced,
because
yeah.
you're teaching people
yeah.
a
I get
bad
it.
premise, a bad principle in life.
It happened, mate, when did DCE do it?
10 years ago.
Mate,
13, 14.
It happened to the...
14.
It happened with Tedesco and the Raiders.
Yes, it did. Yeah, you're
Mate,
right.
it
He
happened.
did,
Mate, Tedesco said yes to the Raiders and went there and backflipped. Like, no one, come on, man.
They bought it.
Don't
They
pretend
changed.
this is the first time it's happened.
No, I'm not.
They changed it. It was a certain cut-off point date, I think, at that point in the
Yeah.
NRL.
Well, take it out. Don't blame the players. Blame the
changed
rules.
it. Well, they changed it to a 10-day cooling off period. So maybe it's just something we either have to accept or we have to change it.
So who got it in there? Is it to help the clubs? Or is it to help the managers?
It's to help the players.
Or does it help the
It's
players?
to help the players.
I think the RLPA
Yeah, it's
had their
the
hands on it
RLPA.
somewhere,
No,
didn't they?
it's all
Yeah.
about the players.
Yeah.
It's
That
not about
is-
the club. Yeah.
That, so
Yeah,
it's that clause.
that
So then when he
clause
sits
thing,
there and all the dust settles, he can go, that was a poor decision from me. I got caught up in the emotion of the money and the Panthers or the Roosters or the Broncos or Cowboys or Titans or whoever it is.
Just also,
I just don't want to go there. I'm actually happy here.
also a lot of players, right? You see them on the field and what they do for 80 minutes on a field. Most people look and go, I couldn't do that. I don't know how they have the actual mental, physical, and emotional capability to perform like that for 80 minutes. But they don't feel comfortable talking to people in power and dealing with phone calls. And some of them have that personality trait of being agreeable, and they just want to say yes to people. They want to make everybody happy. And it's a big difference. That's why we have managers. And I think
We've all played with them.
yeah, like
There's
you know,
blokes that can't say no.
You meet one club and say, that sounds really good.
great
Yes,
point.
you give a positive sign that things are looking good there. Then you speak to the next club and you're, oh yeah, that's really good as well. And then you meet to your own club and you're like, yeah, and it's quite an uncomfortable situation to be in for
They
a
don't
young
feel like
individual.
letting people down.
Yeah.
They actually get the
You
guilt
want
for
to
feeling
say
like they
you
let
want to say
people
yes
down.
to everybody.
Absolutely.
And I think for me, I think there's been some conversations, but I also think looking at David Fifita and the person that he is, it looks like he just wants to make people around him happy. And when he speaks to people on the phone and he flies down to Sydney and meets them, he wants to say yes and be agreeable and tell them that, oh yeah, like they're speaking positively about me and the impact I can have on their team. So I'm going to tell them I'm going to come.
I'd like to hear from Dave. Like, he played yesterday. We haven't heard from him yet about why he decided to backflip on that decision. The other bloke who was obviously instrumental in all of it was Justin Holbrook. He's now the assistant coach at the Roosters.
Sure.
Where I have a bit of a beef, Gordy, is just around, it's not only that he agreed and that he rang Uncle Nick and he rang Trent Robinson and told him that he was coming. He then continued the contact with both of them and was asking about,
and I think Jimmy's just
asking
covered
about
it, and then I haven't
styles of
thought
play and
I get that because that's what
certain
happens.
players and how we're going to, what's going to be the blueprint for this here and there. And I just think,
I got a manager, right? So I'm going to go back to my situation, right?
yeah.
When I was at the Brisbane Broncos, I'm there. I wasn't going anywhere. So what's happening? So just get the deal done here. I don't want to leave.
Yep.
So go get the deal done. For about 4 weeks in the paper, Parramatta, Newcastle, and they were interested. So they're reaching out. Wayne Bennett come and go, what's this? I said, I had no idea.
Yep.
I said, ring my manager. I said, don't you dare talk to me like that. Wayne was filthy because it was in the front page. So I know the effect that it was having on my teammates and me, but then I knew where I was staying. Then I had to play poker with Wayne and let him know that, hey, listen, mate, I got to do what I got to do. I'm sure you'd be doing it. And I'm like, oh, I'm saying here. So I've been caught in this situation where Wayne Bennett confronts me, angry, right? And I said, hey, I got nothing to do with it, right? I'm playing here.
Yep.
And I'll play this, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to sell it. So Dave, whether he has that or Shane Webke could do it, and there's some guys that I played with like Wendell that wouldn't. Wendell Saylor, right, committed to us. We were all sitting around. Myself, Lockie, Shane Webke, Wayne Bennett, we were over on a tour. We rang. Wendell started crying because he was staying with all of us. And we made a pact. He bumps into John Eales. John Eales goes, geez, I'd love to see you in our game. I reckon you'd kill our game. He signs with rugby. Within a month of committing to us. So it happens. There's some guys that just get caught up in the emotion.
Yeah.
And with us, we were all over there. We just played for Australia. We won. The emotion was us. Mate, we were all out. Webke was just resigned. I had just inked my deal halfway through the year. Lockie had redone. So there was the four of us, and we thought we could drag this club and keep on taking it in a new direction. Wendell, after it, got back home. The emotions of that and winning the grand final, and we won the World Cup. He gets home, and then he sees another challenge. And then he said no to us and said yes to them. So it's happened. That's what I'm saying. Like, it has happened, I think, more than what we know. And because it's a powerful club, right, and maybe the Roosters are losing their shine because they went after Sean Johnson. They've lost Swali'i. They've lost Manu, right? They've gone after some big names and they're not getting them.
I think they've made some errors in the recruitment and retention space, 100%, Gorden.
Yeah.
Like, even the way that they've had Suali in the system, and the plan was that long term, you know, all clubs plan 5 years, 10 years down the track. The plan was that long term he would replace Teddy. Well, then they got blindsided and they ended up losing him. Joey Manu goes to Japan for a stint next year, won't be back until about round 12. To Gordy's point, yes, they did miss Johnson. They have now.
They missed Flegler as well. They missed Flegler and Gagai. Yep.
So you know,
I think they've had a shot.
Will
at
they
it.
get Crichton?
still a
Will
power
they
broker.
sign Crichton? That's the
Oh,
big
they
one.
need to.
They have to.
I'd
And
say
I tell
they
you
will
what,
now.
he's got all the eggs in his basket now.
Yeah.